Sexual obsession never announces itself as a threat. It doesn't storm the gates. It slips in quietly, almost politely, disguised as a single image, a remembered body, a harmless fantasy that passes through the mind like background noise. At first, it feels insignificant, barely worth resistance. The man tells himself he is still in control because nothing happened. But control is not lost through action alone. It is lost through permission. The moment a thought is allowed to return unchecked, it begins to claim territory. Attention is not neutral ground. Whatever occupies it repeatedly becomes the axis around which the rest of the mind reorganizes itself. This is how the invasion begins, not with indulgence, but with repetition. The modern mind is uniquely vulnerable because it has been trained to fragment. Notifications, images, endless novelty. Attention has been softened, made porous. Into this weakened field, sexual imagery enters and finds no resistance. Desire does not need to overpower the mind. It only needs to be more stimulating than silence. Once it achieves that, it becomes the default refuge whenever boredom, stress, or uncertainty appears. The man does not consciously choose the thought anymore. It arrives automatically, like a reflex. This is the first structural shift. Thought becomes reactive instead of deliberate. The mind is no longer a tool. It is a surface being written on by impulse. As this pattern deepens, the range of thought begins to narrow. Long-form thinking, strategy, reflection, abstraction requires sustained attention and internal quiet. Sexual obsession destroys both. The mind becomes restless, impatient, unable to sit with complexity. It seeks immediacy, relief, resolution. Over time, curiosity withers. The man stops asking expansive questions about his life, his future, his capacity. Instead, the internal dialogue loops around access, scarcity, memory, and anticipation. The world shrinks to the size of the urge. This is not metaphor. Neurologically, repetition builds grooves. The mind adapts to what it is fed. Feed it desire without direction, and it becomes a craving machine. Soon, attention begins to behave like surveillance. The obsessed mind is always scanning. Faces, bodies, tones of voice, images in passing. Nothing is neutral anymore. Reality becomes sexualized terrain, interpreted through a lens the man did not consciously choose. This constant scanning exhausts the psyche. What feels like heightened awareness is actually depletion. Energy that should be reserved for creation, execution, and command is spent monitoring stimuli. The man is tired without working, distracted without learning, consumed without satisfaction. The most dangerous aspect of this invasion is the illusion of autonomy. The man believes he is just thinking, unaware that repetition has already formed a habit loop. He tells himself he can stop any time because the behavior feels internal, private, consequence-free. But habits of thought shape habits of action, and habits of attention shape identity. The mind slowly reorganizes itself around the pursuit and avoidance of sexual tension, seeking stimulation, fleeing discomfort, filling silence. This is not pleasure. This is captivity. By the time the man notices the cost, his weakened focus, his impatience, his diminished ambition, the occupation is already complete. Desire is no longer an occasional visitor. It is a resident force. It dictates what holds weight, what feels urgent, what feels meaningful. The man has not lost his intelligence. He has lost command of his attention. And without command of attention, no discipline, no ambition, no philosophy can survive. This is how sexual obsession controls thought. Not by force, but by quiet, repeated permission, until the mind no longer remembers what it was like to be still. Once sexual obsession has secured attention, it does not remain passive. It begins to interpret reality. Desire becomes the lens through which events, people, and decisions are filtered. And this is where the real damage occurs. The mind no longer evaluates situations based on consequence, leverage, or alignment with long-term identity. It evaluates them based on proximity to relief. This shift is subtle but absolute. Judgment, which should be cold and discriminating, becomes warm, biased, and impatient. The man still believes he is reasoning, but what he is actually doing is rationalizing, building justifications after the urge has already chosen the direction. People are the first casualties of this distortion. Individuals are no longer encountered as whole beings, but as symbols, access points, obstacles, reminders of lack, or mirrors of fantasy. Respect erodes quietly. Boundaries blur. Even when the man behaves correctly on the surface, his internal posture changes. He listens differently, he looks differently, he weighs interactions not by meaning but by potential. This creates an internal tension that never resolves, because most of life does not exist to gratify libido. Frustration accumulates. The man becomes subtly resentful of a world that refuses to serve his craving. Time itself begins to warp under this pressure. Sexual obsession collapses the future. Long-term costs lose emotional weight because the mind is anchored to the present urge. Consequences become theoretical. Relief feels immediate and real. This is how intelligent men make decisions that later feel unrecognizable. They don't suddenly become foolish. They become short-sighted. The ability to hold discomfort in service of a larger outcome weakens. Patience feels like deprivation. Delay feels like loss. The man is no longer willing to suffer now to win later. And without that capacity, ambition quietly dies. As judgment degrades, emotional volatility increases. Irritability, jealousy, and restlessness surface. Not because life is unfair, but because desire is unsatisfied. The man begins to measure himself against illusions, performers, fantasies, imagined rivals, past experiences inflated by memory. Comparison becomes constant and corrosive. His self-worth starts fluctuating with perceived sexual validation. Confidence becomes conditional. When desire is fed, he feels temporarily elevated. When it is denied, he feels diminished. This emotional dependency is the clearest sign that power has inverted. At this stage, libido is no longer fuel, it is command. The man orbits his urges without realizing it. His schedule bends around access. His standards soften. His discipline becomes selective. He tells himself he is being human, realistic, or honest. But these are post hoc narratives designed to protect the craving from scrutiny. True judgment requires the ability to say no to oneself without self-deception. Sexual obsession erodes that capacity first. The tragedy is not that the man desires. Desire is natural. The tragedy is that desire has replaced sovereignty. When judgment is corrupted, every other system collapses with it. Relationships, mission, self-respect. The man still moves, still works, still speaks with confidence, but internally, he is governed. And a governed mind cannot build anything enduring. It can only react, negotiate, and compromise itself into smaller and smaller shapes. The mind is not freed by resistance alone. It is freed by order. Sexual obsession does not dissolve because a man hates it, fears it, or condemns himself for it. It dissolves when desire is placed back into hierarchy, when libido is no longer allowed to sit at the top of the command chain. The solution is not suppression, which only increases internal tension and produces rebound. The solution is governance. A disciplined man does not attempt to erase desire. He assigns it a role beneath mission, beneath identity, beneath chosen direction. When desire knows it is not in charge, it loses its urgency. The first step in reclaiming sovereignty is the deliberate withdrawal of fuel. Obsession survives on stimulus, images, novelty, fantasy, constant exposure. These are not harmless inputs. They train the mind what to reach for when friction appears. Remove the stimulus and the mind initially revolts. Restlessness increases. Boredom sharpens. The urge grows louder before it weakens. This is not failure, this is detox. Silence feels uncomfortable only to a mind addicted to noise. If a man cannot sit with mental quiet without craving stimulation, that craving already owns him. Endure this phase long enough, and the internal volume drops. Thought deepens. The mind regains its weight. Next comes attention retraining. What a man repeatedly looks at becomes what he repeatedly thinks about. And what he repeatedly thinks about becomes what he eventually obeys. Attention must be treated as a scarce, guarded resource. This means intentional focus, work that demands depth, physical training that exhausts excess energy, reading that stretches concentration, solitude that forces confrontation with the self. Sexual energy that is not constantly vented begins to convert. It sharpens aggression into resolve, restlessness into drive, tension into forward momentum. This is not mysticism. It is redirection. Reclaiming judgment requires rebuilding tolerance for delay. The sovereign mind is able to feel desire without acting on it, to experience tension without needing immediate relief. This capacity is the foundation of power. Every time a man chooses patience over impulse, he reinforces authorship over his inner world. He proves to himself that he is not governed by sensation. Over time, desire loses its coercive quality. It becomes information rather than command, a signal that can be acknowledged without obedience. Finally, the man must anchor himself to something heavier than craving. Mission, craft, responsibility. A chosen burden that demands consistency and sacrifice. Sexual obsession thrives in unstructured lives, in idle hours, in men without a clear internal mandate. Purpose is not a motivational slogan, it is an organizing principle. When the mind is oriented toward building, protecting, or mastering something meaningful, desire naturally falls into proportion. It does not vanish, it obeys. The restored mind is quieter, slower to provoke, and far less reactive. It does not scan the world for stimulation. It moves through it with composure. Desire becomes a stored force, accessed intentionally, rather than a leak draining attention by the hour. This is cognitive sovereignty, the state where a man thinks because he chooses to, not because he is compelled to. And from this position, discipline is no longer exhausting. Focus is no longer fragile. Power is no longer borrowed from impulse. It is owned. Thus remember, we are Indulgence. The Crusaders Bundle. 4 ruthless lessons. 1 unbreakable code. For a limited time, claim all 4 Indulgence audiobooks for the price of 3. Step inside the private archive of discipline, power, and psychological warfare. Where lust is conquered, the mind is weaponized, and legacy is forged. Don't just listen. Arm yourself. Indeceptions.com. The Indulgence archive is the complete vault. Every lesson, every revelation, every psychological blueprint I've ever recorded, handcrafted to help you break chains, build discipline, and become undefeatable in a world built to deceive men. No ads, no algorithms, no distractions.